Today is day 68 of being diagnosed with vestibular neuritis. It has been a long 68 days. But before we can talk about what's happening now on day 68, I'm going to talk to you about day one. Day one, when this all started and what my first symptoms were. I am ready to start documenting what has happened, what is currently happening, and hopefully progress that I'm going to be making very soon to be back to what I would like to call normal life. August 18th, I arrived at work and there was definitely something weird going on with me. I had the worst dry mouth I've ever had, which is a very unusual thing for me. I don't normally have that or normally have to deal with that. So that was something out of the ordinary. I also had some feelings of just uncomfortableness in my breathing. I felt like it was difficult for me to catch a breath. I felt just uncomfortable. It was like I was sweating on the inside, but I wasn't sweating on the outside. My body was hot, but I didn't have a temperature. I felt lightheaded, but everything was fine. I went to the nurse on campus. She checked everything she could possibly check. She drew blood to test my blood sugar. We did my blood pressure, temperature, oxygen, everything she could possibly do to check me out at school. I didn't think I was in any severe immediate danger, but I did know that something was not right and I wasn't feeling okay. So I stayed in her office for a little while and we kind of just talked it out. And the longer I stayed there, the worse I felt. The more I stayed in there, the worse it got. It was just a feeling of something's not right and I thought I was going to pass out. I felt it coming. I felt that any moment I could pass out. It was difficult for me to walk. It was such a weird experience. I'm typically a healthy person. I didn't know how to handle what was going on. And the symptoms were just so random. It was a weird feeling. All I could say is hard to breathe, felt like my insides were burning up, and there was nothing wrong. They couldn't find anything. I ended up talking to my doctor and she said it's probably best just to go to the ER with the odd symptoms I was having. Thankfully, I had coworkers that were able to get me to the ER, and my son and husband were able to meet me there with my future daughter-in-law. And it was rough. When I got to the ER is when the dizziness started and the nausea. And the dizziness was out of this world. When I say I have never had this type of dizziness ever, and I've had vertigo, it was unlike anything I've ever had to deal with. I'll attempt to explain the dizziness. So imagine you're falling out of an airplane and you're tumbling down, really flipping, and then at the same time everything is spinning around you. It's almost as if there was nothing that could stop the dizziness. Closing my eyes didn't help. It was horrible. It was the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. They couldn't do anything for me at the ER, but they did try. I had EKG, blood work, CAT scan, x-rays. They attempted to see what was wrong with me, but nothing could be found. I was in a wheelchair, but every time they moved me, I threw up. Every time I had to move, I was sick. And it wasn't just a subtle nausea, it was rough. When I finally was able to close my eyes and try to relax in a bed, my husband was kind enough to get this lovely image for our memories. It's the worst I've ever felt, ever. Eventually, they gave me some IV fluids and some Benadryl and some type of concoction that was supposed to help me not be nauseated and dizzy, which really didn't work, but it did knock me out enough to be able to get home. And they referred me to see an ENT. So this is day 1, Thursday. I didn't have a clue what was in store. I didn't know what was wrong with me. They definitely thought it was an inner ear issue. They thought that an ENT would be the best option for me to get diagnosed. So I went home, and home posed a new type of issue. It was very uncomfortable for me to be at home. All I wanted to do was sleep. When I was sleeping, when I was asleep, I felt like I couldn't feel the dizziness. And I slept a long time. Medication really knocked me out. And I was thankful for that. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to get up to use the restroom. I wanted to just lay down and sleep as long as possible. And any slight movement was excruciatingly painful, which sounds really extreme, but it was just absolutely horrible. So I got in bed with the help of my husband, thank goodness, because just getting in and out of bed and walking around was still rough. I had a weighted blanket, I had a fan blowing on me, and I just tried my best to sleep it off as much as I could. This was a Thursday, day 1. Today's day 68.